What's up, you guys? Zoe here from OneGlanceTrader.com, and in this video we're going to be looking at, is AMD a buy right now? So they have just released their Q1 2022 earnings, and they had a top line beat, bottom line beat, gross margin also up by a couple of percentage points, and you can see that after hours AMD is up around 4%. Really good earnings. But what we really want to understand is the price at the moment of 94.57 or whatever it's going to open at in the morning the right price to be buying? And if not, what is the right price and what we're going to do about it? So that's what we're going to go look at in this video. So if you like the sound of that, all I ask for is that you smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Now, to determine what is the right buy price for AMD, for those of you who watch my channel know that I'm very much into the concept of intrinsic value. So what intrinsic value basically is, it looks at what is the value of the underlying asset, and there are a few models that we can use to determine that, and we'll go through the one we're going to go through in this video. But effectively what you want to do is, once you calculate what the intrinsic value is of this underlying asset, in our case AMD, and then you have kind of the stock price, market price going like this, you want to find opportunities for when a stock is below its intrinsic value, so it's, undervalued, so to speak, and either sell or wait when we are overvalued. So that's what we want to do. We want to understand, is AMD at intrinsic value, overpriced above intrinsic value, or underpriced below intrinsic value? So if we look at AMD, from a weekly chart on TradingView, you can see here that AMD is down by 49% since its November highs back in 2021. So it has taken a massive drop. So our job is, as traders or long-term investors, is AMD a buy at this current point? And what we're going to do to work that out, we are going to use a valuation method called the earnings, or the EPS earnings valuation method. And the way you can do that, I've created a free indicator on TradingView, which, if you get the top link down below, which takes you straight to TradingView. All you do is, when you go to the indicators section, if you type in OGT, it will bring up all the indicators that I have, and it's called the OGT Intrinsic Value Indicator. And what it tries to do, at the moment, it uses an earnings model. I'm looking to add in a discounted cash flow model as part of this, so you can determine what the price or the intrinsic value of AMD is going to be. So if I uncheck this now, so you can kind of see this, and again, I've got a dedicated video on this, and I'll link to that down below. But effectively, if you remember this red line over here, this is what these lines are. And again, it gives you three kind of settings, from a high assumption, a medium assumption, and a low assumption. So again, the way it works is, you then plug in what you think the earnings growth is going to be over the next 5 years. You then apply a multiple for year 5, and then you give your rate of return, and it discounts back from year 5 to the present day to calculate what price or fair value intrinsic price AMD is. So if you look at the settings, what we've done here, firstly, I'm going to go to this section over here. First thing we need to do as part of this model is calculate what is going to be the earnings or annual growth rate over the next 5 years. So the best way to kind of start your analysis on that is by going to Yahoo Finance, add in the ticker, and go to the analysis section. And when you go to the analysis section, you will see that right at the bottom, you've got the growth estimates, and it's got the growth next 5 years per annum of all these analysts. And there's about 10 analysts that look at AMD. Yeah, so between 10 to 15 analysts. They're saying that the consensus is that over the next 5 years, the EPS earnings growth for AMD will be 29.9% growth every single year. So, whether you believe analyst ratings or not is a subjective thing. But what I like to do is I like to put in the is the highest assumption um, um, as the earnings analyst. And again, I then have worked backwards at 25 and at 20. And again, you can do your own due diligence, but if you want like a quick and dirty view, go with the analyst ratings for the highest, and then work your way down. Once you've done that, you then need to add in what is the PE ratio or the multiple in year 5 to work out what the share price is going to be in year 5. And again, one of the best ways to kind of work this out is if you go or Google on Y charts and just type in Y charts AMD PE ratio historic with a without even logging in, but with a kind of a free account, it gives you 5 years of historic PE data. And with PE, the higher the PE, the more growth you're expected as part of a company. And as you can imagine, AMD has some really high PE multiples of between 50, 100, 200, etc. And now it's been trading at around between 40 and 30, and it's at its current lowest in the last 5 years of 35.32. Now, as a company grows, there is less and less growth there. So therefore, personally, the kind of rule of thumb is kind of using what the historics are and then going slightly lower as part of that from your assumptions. So the assumptions that I've gone with is 17, 15, and 12. And again, you can go slightly higher or lower depending on what you feel, but these for me seem to be quite reasonable for AMD. And the last piece is, as I said, we need to discount the year 5 value based on your annual rate of return that you want for a particular stock. Now, I like to go with 12.5%. That is mainly down to I can make 9 to 10% just investing in the S&P 500 index fund. So I want a bit of a margin of safety or a bit of premium on top of that. For me, having the additional risk of investing in one particular stock as opposed to a basket of 500 stocks in the S&P 500. And again, the higher the number, the lower your fair value is going to be, your intrinsic value, and then the higher the number, obviously, the lower that is going to be. So if we have a look at that and what it does, it kind of presents you the kind of maths of the current EPS of $2.57 in year 1, and then it compounds it in this case by 20%, 25%, and 29.9%. And then it times year 5 by the multiple and then discounts it back by 12.5%, and then plots this on the graph for you to kind of get this intrinsic value line. So what we're going to do is you can turn off this particular chart here. So we'll turn off the tables so we can just see the line. So you can see here we're looking at, if you believe in analyst estimates of the 29.9% growth rate and a multiple of 17, I think it was, at a 12.5% annual return, you're looking at around $77.79. So even though it's had a 48% drop, we are still not yet, in my opinion, at the high level assumption. Where I probably think, where this stock starts becoming interesting is somewhere in between the middle, between 58 and 77. So I would say around the $65 mark where we could start getting quite interesting. And essentially you can see is, it's had a pretty good week, just released earnings. Let's have a look, see where the earnings are now. It's still hovering around 3.5 to 4%. So let's say what I like to do is that if it's a stock that I like, and I do like AMD, and you've done your due diligence in terms of where you think the company's going to go and all that kind of good stuff, and let's say around $65 is where I'm starting to get quite interested in this stock, what I like to do is sell put options. And so put options is basically you're writing a contract to say I'm willing to buy 100 shares of AMD at, let's say, the $65 strike, and the buyer will then pay a premium to you, which is income in your pocket, if AMD gets to that price. So instead of putting a limit order in at 65, you can still make money selling options on AMD. So let's say we go a month out. Where are we now? We're at the 3rd. So let's say we go 3rd of June, exactly a month out. If we go to puts, and let's say we were doing at the 65 strike, let's say you can get anywhere between 56 to 62. So the last price was $60. So if we have a look at that, 0.6 divided by 65 times by 100, so yeah, just less than 1%. 0.92% return on your 6.5 grand for a month's work. And if AMD goes up or closes above the $65 strike, then you effectively keep the $60 and you get your collateral back. If AMD drops to 65 or below, you keep the $60, but then you own 100 shares of AMD. So that's how you kind of use the indicator. Again, it's absolutely free. Link is down below. Hope you've enjoyed that video on AMD, and I shall see you guys in the next one.